Hello and welcome to Direction Northeast. I'm Isaiah Acquaintance. This program is a presentation of the Mass Communications Department at Northeast State Community College. Because of the COVID-19 outbreak, there has been an increase in grant funding to accommodate different modes of education in elementary, high schools, and higher education. The CARES program and programs offered by the Tennessee Higher Education Commission have provided funding for purchase of equipment, software, and materials to meet the needs created by online and distance learning. We'll meet our guests and start our discussion following this message.
I'm pursuing my PhD in nursing.
I work in video production.
I'm a physical therapist.
I'm a business owner.
I'm a journalist.
A refrigeration technician.
I am a dental hygienist.
And I got my start at Northeast State.
I started
At Northeast State.
I got my start at Northeast State.
We all have to start somewhere, and at Northeast State, we make it easy. With over 150 programs of study, the choice is clear. Smart careers. Start here. Visit northeaststate.edu and get started today. Northeast State Community College. We're here to get you there.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, many different modes of educational instruction have become a necessity. Today we'll be learning more about the CARES Act and other funding programs. Joining me is Jennifer Starling, Assistant Vice President for Student Success and Dean of Students, and Jane Honeycutt, Assistant Vice President for Teaching Excellence and Academic Services. Thank you both so much for coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Jane, we'll start with you. So tell me a little bit about what the CARES Act stands for and how it came to be about and what exactly it is.
The CARES Act stands for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security. And it was an act passed by Congress providing funding to a lot of different parts of our economy to support us through the shutdown that occurred after we started seeing high levels of infection and hospitalizations and that sort of thing. And so higher education institutions received funding based on their profiles. And so I'm pretty sure our grant development office submitted some information about Northeast State, and unlike most grants, we received the money prior to sending in what we plan to do with those funds. So we received around $2.2 million in institutional funds and an equivalent amount that was directly distributed to students, all to support us through this period of time.
And when exactly did this come about, in relation to, really the outbreak?
Those funds, I believe, were provided in May of this past spring. Does that sound right to you? And this is something that will expire in May of 2021. And so what we have done with those funds, the first thing we did was just to create a grant proposal. So we broke it down. We worked with all areas of the college to determine what they needed in order to provide high quality education during this time period, and put together a grant proposal to let this Department of Education know what we plan to do with the funds that they had awarded us.
And Jennifer, can you tell me a little bit about the THEC, or the Tennessee Higher Education Commission?
Grant, yeah, certainly. That was a grant that was sponsored through THEC, again in response to our COVID pandemic. So we supplied a proposal to THEC. It was a competitive process, and we were awarded over $500,000 to create a quick stop for students and faculty and staff should we pivot and have to close our campus for an increasing numbers of COVID cases, in addition to just providing students a no contact opportunity to work with our student affairs and other offices. So the Quick Stop offers students and staff an opportunity to drive through what was our current Welcome Center. We've converted that to a Quick Stop where admissions, records, financial aid, the business office, and IT will provide services to students, handing in documentation, answering questions to where they don't even have to come on campus.
That's great. And what kind of things are eligible for this grant funding?
We were able to actually transform the police office. They were housed in several different places across campus and were not able to fully function as a unified police force as typical colleges would have. So we were able to provide additional space, new equipment for them, high-tech equipment, with the welcome center, we can ready again to the Quick Stop, where we will have computers, laptops that students can have, as well as faculty or adjuncts if they don't have a laptop that where they can go through and get webcams or whatever technical assistance they may need to continue the semester.
And Jane, can you tell me some other things that the CARES Act was able to provide for students and staff as well?
We just, by communicating with all areas of the college, we were able to just secure funding for a broad variety of things. We collaborated with academic affairs and devoted a lot of funding to faculty training, to hardware, like we ordered laptops for loan to, as she mentioned, faculty and students and staff. Equipment like webcams, but also equipment that nursing program needs in order to have clinicals that will pass the requirements because those students can't go into the hospitals that were in the spring. We're not allowed into the hospital, so how do they get their clinicals done? So we got some equipment that will help, that will meet those requirements and can be used in online instruction. Software. Suddenly everybody has to teach through Zoom, and so we had to get Zoom licensing. We had to get software, other kinds of software. I'm trying to think of other things, but just everything from document cameras to software to hardware to heavy, expensive equipment and faculty training, faculty and staff development.
We were able to also do some Zoom rooms
Yes.
for students.
Yes, we didn't have that many Zoom rooms, but now we have gotten funding for Zoom rooms and equipment to build those Zoom rooms out so that faculty can, and students can come. Yes, that was an issue as well, students having access to access a Zoom, so that we have those rooms now on campus.
And back to you, Jane. You mentioned software, the cameras, the Zoom rooms, everything of that nature. How do you feel that teachers have adjusted to this, online learning?
Well, it's been a challenge, but they have met that challenge, and so I'm really proud of our Center for Teaching and Learning staff. Dawn Dabney, Jim Kelly, Rick Merritt worked really, really hard this summer putting together a D2L certification course, which was paid for through the THEC grant. And so all faculty were offered D2L training. So those who had used it a lot were in pretty good shape, but a lot of faculty just used it a little bit and were traditional teachers, and suddenly they had to learn how to do this online. So our CTL staff really put together a wonderful training. So there are 3 modules. Faculty were offered some compensation, and they all participated, almost all faculty participated. So this has been an opportunity for faculty growth regardless. So I feel really good about that.
And do you feel that, like you said, faculty growth regardless, do you think this is going to help on into the future, like this ability to, compensate for online learning?
Absolutely. Faculty are learning how technology, regardless of whether we have to do it or not, is really going to enhance instruction. So I feel really good about it. And students too. Students are learning a lot about how to learn in a virtual way. And so even though we didn't necessarily want to go that way, that has added to our arsenal of ways in which we can teach effectively and offer high quality education to our students.
And Jennifer, back to you. Do you think this online modality will extend past the pandemic?
I think it has, like Jane just mentioned, it's giving our faculty another mode of teaching. So I think we'll continue to see additional online courses. What's also helpful is our high school students are online now. The majority of them are having to learn online. So I think that's going to be an added advantage when they come on campus to Northeast State. There's not going to be that big transition of the online learning and how to navigate our desire to learn our D2L learning platform. So I think it's going to continue, but I would like for us to continue to also have those on-ground courses, because we are a community college that offers some high technical fields that we really need to get them in the labs as well.
And can you tell me a little bit about some of the struggles that were faced, how we basically had to switch from in-person to online within a week, some of the struggles that, y'all faced and had seen others face during the height of COVID fear, I guess?
Certainly. Well, we had a lot of concern among not only faculty and staff, but our students, because here we're asking them to pivot completely online for a portion of time, and just the transition of learning in a different virtual world rather than the one-on-one communication. So we've done some aggressive updates for our new student orientation. We have a component of learning about D2L and how to navigate that. So I think it's going to be beneficial. You know, there's always something positive that comes out of something negative, and that's really how we're working on that. But just getting acquainted with the new way of doing things, and how do I reach my faculty member? How do I reach the student services? So we've kind of had to change some of the way we do business to meet those needs, and I think it's been very positive.
And Jane, how do you feel students have adjusted to online?
Well, the ones that I've worked with have adjusted, and they're learning, but at the same time they feel so isolated, and they're struggling to find ways to engage. They really miss just being here, and I've had some students just decide, I'm just going to come up there to do my work, just to be. I found myself doing that. I can do my work from home, but I feel more productive when I'm here in my work environment, and I think students are feeling the same way. So I know they've mourned the loss of just contact with each other and contact with their instructors. So we can do it, and for some, you know, it's opened up a possibility. It's like, okay, I can work full time and I can take classes because I can do the work whenever I have the time. I don't have to be there at 10 a.m. But others really need to be in a classroom with their fellow students. So it's been a challenge.
And a second ago, you spoke about some of the updates to orientation. What were some more of those updates that you spoke about, you know, like such as navigating D2L or some others?
Yes, typically we have an on-ground orientation. We like to get students, prospective students and first-time students out on our campus to get the feel of the campus. We've instituted a virtual tour that will begin in the spring term to let students still have the idea of what the college looks like and feel so they're more comfortable when they do step back on campus. We've also had the D2L component placed in there so they have some training before the class starts. We have done creative things with our student life and having we wanted to go do activities for our students under COVID, which has presented its challenges as well. We had a wonderful turnout, a huge turnout for our drive-in movie. So we're just trying to be creative with our thought process and still provide those important connections and opportunities for students to engage.
And Jane, a second ago, you spoke about you know, students feeling isolated and whatnot. Do you feel like this, implementing the Zoom rooms and, you know, Zoom licensing and everything, will that provide more students just a chance to interact with, you know, their teachers and fellow students?
Absolutely. I mean, they can, faculty can set up a time where students can come in and interact with them individually if they have questions, just, you know, set up a Zoom time, and faculty have gotten really agile with that. Going into it, I myself had never used Zoom, so I thought this was this thing that was really complicated that somebody had to help you with, and it's just like ABC. It's very, very easy, and so we've learned a lot about how easy it is to get connected. It's still, you know, when you're in your room and you're looking out through, it's still, you know, there's a barrier there, but I think we've learned a lot about how to we're getting more comfortable with that environment.
And Jennifer, back to you, switching back more to the THEC and the CARES grant, what were some specific impacts you've seen the THEC grant have on students and faculty?
Feeling a sense of we're really doing everything we can to meet their needs. So if they're uncomfortable coming on campus and coming in direct contact with a fair number of people, they'll be able to drive through, not get out of their car. We're going to have like a bank teller window that will open up in a speaker to where we can clearly hear the requests of the students. And quick, you know, they can come in, come out. And if we do see a larger number of students utilizing that, we have a pager system, typical like you would have at a restaurant. So if we start to see, oh, it looks like we're going to get a backup, we just tell them to go park somewhere and their buzzer will go off, and then we'll be ready to assist them. We've also instituted Zoom advising and doing a lot with texting to reach our students.
And Jane, can you tell me a little bit about the specific impact you've seen the CARES Act have on students?
Well, I know that they received funding during that spring allotment, and so that I'm sure has helped them when they were looking at perhaps losing jobs and that sort of thing that happened during the spring. But I just think, like I said, we have found ways very quickly to train the faculty so that they become more effective online. Those who needed that assistance got that assistance, and so that's made them learn, I think, well, made the teaching more effective, thus the learning easier to access. We've also put together training videos for the students. So here's how you navigate D2L if they weren't, because not everybody does it the same way. So they learn, for example, they're looking for their assignments, and there's a thing in D2L that says assignments. Well, that's where you put your assignments, that's not where you get them. And it never had even occurred to me, well, of course that doesn't make any sense. You would go to assignments to find them. So we just had little trainings created for them. And I think that's made it work very well.
And can you tell me a little bit about the Office of Grant Development's role in receiving this funding?
In this case of CARES, just let the federal government, the Department of Education, know about our composition, and we received the funding. But I think the beauty of grant development is they knew how to create internal controls. So we worked very hard with our campus community, putting together, what do you need? Give me a justification for that need. So we had a really good, based on what they said, I put together a proposal, and we submitted that proposal to the Department of Education, and it was approved immediately. So we already know that what we have spent the money on is justified and approved. So when it comes time to order things, we have a process, and so it's all working very, very smoothly, and people are getting what they need as quickly as possible.
Isaiah, we also have surveyed our students to find out what their technology needs are, if they have adequate access to internet, and do they have a laptop, do they have what they need. We also surveyed our faculty and staff, and we continue to do so we can make sure these grant funds are spent wisely and effectively and benefit who it's supposed to.
And you spoke just now about if students don't have access to online learning, obviously, so it'd be a very difficult time for them. How do you go about, trying to provide that service for them so that they can continue to attend?
We, again, have some CARES Act funds that we can spend. The students can actually go on our website and indicate what they're struggling with, what their needs are. We also have a wonderful, strong foundation that has set aside some funds as well to help out our students. But again, we opened up some places in our parking lot, so if students didn't have access to the internet, they could have access on campus, not have to be charged or purchase anything. Be on campus and in their vehicles, utilizing our web and our internet service.
So Jane, back to you. So, obviously times are changing a lot right now. When something arises that you weren't expecting, how are you able to handle redistributing this grant as needed?
Well, we have a really great process again through the Grant Development Office for budget modifications. So we've already done one budget modification because we had some need for example, having to, when campus was going to reopen, screening stations and hiring people to man those stations. So and other things. We discovered new needs. All we do is we complete the grant modification form, get internal approvals, send it to the Department of Education, approved very quickly. So we have such organized, effective internal controls for how we spend this money. And that money is to address any need that has come up because of COVID and the disruption it's created. And as Jennifer pointed out, we find out directly from students and faculty what they need and try to get that for them.
Now, you mentioned, new problems are arising fairly often. What are some other new problems that you had mentioned?
Well, for example, we we established a certain amount of money for cleaning and screening, and then find out we need more, or we need to get to establish a contract with a certain company, something that we thought we were going to do student workers, we're going to have to do it a different way, something like that. If we need more money for cleaning supplies, we just try to reallocate from places where we may have allocated elsewhere. So it just when we have new ideas coming from, for example, our faculty are currently working on developing master courses for all the particularly high enrollment courses, so that those courses are ready to go online to assist any faculty teaching those courses. So that was something that we put in and got approved and are currently working on.
And you just mentioned master course. What exactly is that?
Well, so for example, English Composition 1. Everybody takes English Composition 1 practically. So we're going to put, the deans have selected some of our most effective online instructors to develop master courses. And so that's going to provide anybody who teaches Comp 1 with an accessible syllabus, a sample daily plan, some sample assignments. It's all accessible in the sense that it's created using universal learning design, and evaluated using the Oscar rubric, which the course itself is that's kind of a long story, but we have a rubric. We have standards that are national standards. So we're going to create these courses so we know that they're high quality and accessible, so that they're ready to go. So if we have an instructor that needs, now that instructor can change it in any way they see fit, but they have something to start with.
And you've mentioned several times now about the Department of Education. Can you tell me a little bit about their role in this whole process?
Well, the United States Department of Education, of course, is huge and covers the whole nation. And so for our portion of the CARES Act, we have a project director. So whatever we develop our grant proposal, for example, I send to that project director, and that person evaluates and approves our request for how to utilize those funds.
And back to you, Jennifer. What were some difficulties you faced in this process?
I think just keeping up with the rapid changes and being able to do that. But Northeast State is fabulous. We've got an amazing group of staff, faculty, administrators that the sole purpose is our student success. So we started seeing that some students were struggling. We identified a staff member, Denise Walker, who's got a counseling background and very good with working with our students. So there's a single point of contact where the students can reach out to that student. So whenever we saw a challenge or an increase in concern, we jumped on that opportunity and found the right people and the right resources to make that fit and make that decrease of an issue for our students and to continue to make them successful and graduate.
And Jane, what were some difficulties you've faced during this whole process?
Well, having responsibility for the Center for Teaching and Learning, first of all, just developing high quality faculty development training, specifically designed that D2L certification. And so that took a lot of collaboration with academic affairs, and then really a lot of willingness on the part of 3 people to really work hard over the summer while they themselves were teaching and getting prepared for the fall. And I asked them, is this reasonable? Can you do this? And they were willing to do it. And they did an excellent job. They really took it seriously. They really devoted a lot of time to it. And so I'm really, really proud of them. So as Jennifer said, when you have a good team, you get some really good work done. And the same thing is happening with the master course development and people who are going to serve as peer reviewers for those master courses, collaborating with academic affairs to get that idea in place, get someone who's going to coordinate those efforts. People are stepping up to the plate and doing a great job, and so we just really have great deans, great academic affairs vice presidents and assistant vice presidents, faculty, and so I feel really, really confident that this is not only going to get us through this time, but it's going to really raise the bar, and it's going to make us better at what we do.
Definitely, I agree.
And you mentioned just now the 3 people during the summer, really making a big impact. If you wouldn't care, would you care to tell me a little bit about those 3 people and sort of what they did?
Dawn Dabney, who's one of our math assistant, I think she's associate professor of math. Jim Kelly, who's associate professor of history, and Rick Merritt, who's a professor of communications. And so each one of them had agreed to take responsibility for certain sections of the D2L certification course. And so Dawn Dabney has been educating herself. Nobody asked her to do this. She saw a need, and she went out and taught herself a lot about accessibility and the requirements, the federal requirements, the state requirements for making all of our courses accessible. And so she's been our go-to person. So she's done a lot of work with that portion of it. Dr. Merritt worked a lot on showing faculty how to create videos, how to do integrity videos inside of D2L as well as Zoom. And I have to mention Mike Collins.
I was going to say, yes.
Mike Collins alone is over academic computing. He's the manager, and the demand on him was incredible over the spring and the summer, and he never said, I don't have time to help you guys. He was at every meeting. He worked with students on their computer, their hardware problems. I mean, I don't even know how he did it. I mean, he was working, 5 in the morning till 9 at night sometimes. So, I mean, the willingness of the faculty and the staff to put in the hours necessary to make this work is what's made it work.
Starting with Jennifer, as far as the grant funding go, can you tell me some of the biggest challenges you faced in this whole process?
With the THEC grant, I had a very short period of time to spend over $500,000. Normally grants are several years in duration, but this one was a really fast one. So amongst having COVID and the short deadline, we couldn't get things as quickly as we normally would. Computers and laptops and iPads and all of our technology needs are coming out of China, so there was a big delay. But we've been fortunate, again, with great staff and persistence on Northeast State's part to make this be a successful grant opportunity. To date, we've spent over $400,000 of that. So this grant ends November 15th of this year. So time is ticking, but we've already got a lot in place and are real pleased with the outcome.
And what were some adjustments you had to make in order to, achieve this within this time frame?
Work unconventionally, call as many people as you can, work even closer with our faculty and staff here and let them know that the time delays, our accounts payable, our grant office. It's just been a team effort because we have to pull everything together and make sure we get everything approved here, identified, and done by the end of the grant.
Well, thank you both so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it. And thank you for tuning in. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap up Direction Northeast.
Over 10 years in investigations.
25 in heating and air conditioning.
15 years in the automotive industry.
22 in computer science.
23 years in healthcare.
An engineer.
A biochemist.
A chemist.
An award-winning author.
Northeast State professors bring experience to the classroom, a personal education from a professional. Classes when you need them, where you need them. More than 150 programs. Visit northeaststate.edu. Northeast State Community College. We're here to get you there.
That concludes the program for today. We spoke with Jennifer Starling, Assistant Vice President for Student Success and Dean of Students, and Jane Honeycutt, Assistant Vice President for Teaching Excellence and Academic Services. Community is very important to the students at Northeast State Community College, and this program takes a look at a few of the subjects they find important. On behalf of the students, staff, and faculty of Northeast State Community College, I'm Isaiah Acquaintance, and this has been Direction Northeast.